All right, this week we are joined by the head coach of the women's gymnastics team here at Maryland, Brett Nelligan. Thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Of course. So earlier this week, you heard your team's name called to go to your eighth straight NCAA Regional. Obviously, you've been in that position a lot over the past 8 years, but how does it feel to finally have your team's name called and know where you'll be heading next week?
Yeah, we say it's the best day of the year, and I try to impress upon the team. It's like hearing your name called is something you should never take for granted. We have, seniors who have heard their name for you. We have a fifth year that's heard Maryland called 5 times. And from my first time hearing my name called in 2010 to now, I think we've made it, 14, 15 times. It's like it never gets old. It's exciting every time. And I think the reason is because it's hard every time. Just because you've, made it to the tournament a lot of times doesn't make it easier the next year. You have to work for it and you have to earn it every year. So I really hope our athletes kind of get to enjoy that moment. The selection show day is really fun. We have, staff that attends and donors and alum and parents. So it's really kind of a great event. And I hope they enjoyed it on Monday.
Absolutely. You mentioned the number of times that you've been selected, specifically the last 8 years. What do you think has led to the consistency in your program to allow the Terps to be selected, with this much consistency, I guess?
Yeah, this last run, the 8, 9, 10 years, it's like we've brought in student athletes that are obviously talented in gymnastics, but the caliber of people that they are is what is driving this culture, right? And they're passing it down. This is becoming a thing of a standard of how we train and how we use recovery in the weight room and how hard we work. That's being passed down from great leadership and great culture on our team, and that's led to that consistent success, I think.
What are some of the characteristics you look at when you're bringing in athletes to continue that culture? Obviously, you can teach build things, you can pass that down, but what traits do you look for when you're bringing people into Maryland to continue that legacy?
Yeah, I love that question. We have a saying that we say to recruits, like, we're looking for good gymnasts, but we're looking for great people, because you can do a lot more with great people than you can with just good gymnastics, right? So what we're looking for is people who want to be a part of a team, we first, not me, and that want to be a part of a family style culture, that want to grow and learn, that want to get better, that also want to leave their mark on our program, right? Come in here and take a program to the next level and break school records and things like that, and leave the program better than you found it. I also really like looking for student athletes that are very academic focused, right? We have an outstanding academic university here, that. And I just feel like student athletes who come in and are driven in their careers, it's such an easy segue for them to be driven in their sport and how they train and how they practice, the same way they approach their academics, their schoolwork, and their future careers.
How do you think bringing in people like that with some of those qualities and with some of those, goals helps set student athletes up for success after gymnastics and after Maryland?
Yeah, so two things. Well, one, how you do, we were saying how you do anything is how you do everything, right? So if you're academically and career driven, you're going to be same detail oriented when you, like we said, when you train, when you go to the weight room, when you go to the recovery, things like that. And then that gives you the skill set for life when you leave here, right? If you have that discipline and focus and drive and you know how to work hard and put in long hours, you combine that with the other great thing that Maryland gives you is one of the best educations in the country. All of our top 15 public university rankings and 75 majors in the top 25. It's like you combine the work ethic and skills that we teach here, being on the gymnastics team, with the academic rankings at Maryland. There's nothing you can't achieve when you leave here.
Before we get back to the show, here's a quick word from our sponsor. The Catalyst to the Game is brought to you by Catalyst Hot Dogs. Catalyst brought the Jersey dog to the DMV, featuring premium dry-aged Black Angus all-beef hot dogs made in Maryland, served with handmade toppings including hot onions, relish, and their signature Texas chili sauce. And don't miss their original garlic knot dogs. Catalyst always offers vegan dogs as well as gluten-free buns. Shout out gluten-free buns, because Catalyst has food for everyone. Find them in CQ Stadium in Section 14 and the Xfinity Center in Section 210. Tell the people a hot dog is a sandwich. All right, Now here is more under the show.
Going back to some of that consistency, some of the finishes you guys have had with your time as head coach, you guys seem to always finish around that top 25 mark in the country. What is it going to take, you think, to get past that and get some finishes in the top 15, top 10? How do you kind of see? Obviously, you've had so much consistency. How do you see yourself continuing to improve on that?
Yeah, those rungs get harder and harder to climb, but it's progress. I always say it's like never exactly linear. There's progress, and then there's some plateaus, and then progress again. And I remember taking over the program as a first year head coach. I think the year before that, we were 48th in the country. And at that moment, the goal was like, can we become a consistent NCAA tournament team? And that's top 36. So just getting in the 36 was the goal. And then as we started to achieve that, you raise the bar a little bit, you move it to top 25. And over the last, I think we've been ranked in the top 25 at least 1 week, 8 out of the last 11 years. So that's become the kind of the new standard. So now we're looking for athletes and team that wants to push to that next, to get into the teens, and then eventually to become a top 16 seeded team going to the NCAA tournament. But it's just steady work in every aspect, in the gym, in the weight room, training room, in recruiting on the road with the coaching staff, in developing our skill set as coaches, getting better. It's grinding every day to try to earn those goals and keep moving up the rankings.
I think, obviously I'm aware because I'm a journalist and cover the sports teams at Maryland, but how do you like to get the word out to people, in the Maryland community and, maybe some of the local communities and some of the younger athletes, that, hey, right around the corner in the DMV, Maryland Gymnastics has one of the, perennial top 25, top 30 teams in the country. What are some strategies you use to kind of advertise the Maryland Gymnastics program?
Well, what I think is really cool in this kind of new era that we're living in social media, and I know sometimes social media gets a bad rep, but it's been enormous for us to, kind of like you said, you have a whole new audience that you can contact. When you go back 10 years ago, you only have the traditional sources of marketing. It's TV, radio, billboards. That's kind of it. Now we have Instagram and TikTok and all these social media platforms where you can connect directly with a younger generation of fans, and that's who we love. We have fans that come out that are 8-year-old, 9-year-old gymnasts, and their parents come and bring them. It's a family friendly environment that you can come watch gymnastics. But what's really cool is that was never available before is fans can connect directly with the student athletes. Like, you follow them on Instagram and you feel like you kind of know them, and they're doing a day in the life, or this is me going to treatment and this is me eating lunch, and you feel like you have a connection with that student athlete. Then you can come on the weekend and watch them compete. And if you look at our last home meet of the year, senior night, we had over 2,600 fans. I mean, it was the highest attended meet of the year, because throughout the season, all of our fans, local kids in the community and their parents, connecting with our student athletes, watching them on social media, and then coming to see them in person, maybe get their autograph after the meet. That's been really beneficial to us.
Super neat. I want to head back and talk about the regional again. Obviously, you guys have, I believe, 5 returners from last year competing in last year's regional who are competing in this year's regional. Maybe I'm off by a number or two there, but how are you looking for those gymnasts to kind of help lead the team heading into this year's, because they have that experience?
Yeah, and if you go back to last year's regional, it was our highest regional score in program history. And if we had been in, our score was so good. If we had been in any other regional site, we just happened to be in a tough bracket, but if we had been in any other regional site, we would have advanced to the Sweet 16. So what we talked about, I remember right when that meet was over, I thanked that team for setting that standard of how we approach a regional championship bracket. It was like that intensity that they competed with last year is how we have to compete every time we get out there at a regional tournament. So having those 5 returning athletes, you got Sarah Seville set last year the highest bar score in program history at a regional, and Taylor Reck set the highest, or tied, I think, the highest vault score at a regional, and then Maddie Komorowski was NCAA regional beam champion. So having them all back, they know the standard at which the level that you have to be at when you go up against these teams in the NCAA tournament. And they just also happen to be our leaders, right? It's perfect. Like they are our leaders in the gym, outside of the gym, and I expect them to be our leaders when we hit the floor in Lexington next weekend.
Absolutely. Obviously, on the road for this, I want to go back and talk about another road trip you guys had this season out to UCLA, which has kind of become maybe a highlight, but also a low light for a lot of programs. Just the difficulty of getting out there for the Big Ten. One of your weaker meets this year. What were your lessons that you guys learned for going out west, and maybe some things you do differently to help prepare the girls better for that meet?
Yeah, and so it's interesting that you bring that up. People talk about the travel, but it was not difficult to get the team amped up to travel to LA. The year before, going to Washington was a little tougher. It's the same 6-hour flight, but you didn't have the beautiful weather, and we didn't get to go to where did we go to? We went to what's the street, the famous street? We went to
Oh God,
Rodeo. It was Rodeo.
Yes,
right?
yes, yeah.
It wasn't hard to convince them to get excited to go to LA with the beautiful weather and go to Rodeo Drive. But yeah, I think they did a great job managing the travel and the sleep and all those things. And the environment was intense. Okay, so I think we had a good performance, but not our best. We got a little tight, maybe got a little nervous. But that's what helps us grow. Like getting out there, being in front of 8,000, 10,000 fans, Ashton Kutcher sit in front row, right? Like it changes how you compete. But that's what we've got to learn how to handle. And so I think that sets us up going to this regional. I told him, to be honest, this is probably the most intense environment that we'll see the entire year. Like I said, LA, and you got Jordan Childs last season. It's very popular out there, and like I said, all the celebrities are. I think Russell Wilson was there, and I mean, it was like it's packed, right? So that helps what we called stretch. It stretches them. It stretches the ability of what they're able to handle, the pressure, the intensity, the fans, the celebrities, whatever it is. So when we go to this NCAA regional, it shouldn't be as intense as that. I mean, Kentucky will have a great crowd, but Kentucky's not in the meet with us. So we won't see as intense an environment as we saw on the road at LA. And I think that will help us with confidence going forward.
I think that's a really good positive to take away from that. It makes a lot of sense. It's kind of like, scheduling is super hard. It's why, a lot of other schools, specifically like women's lacrosse, will schedule a really hard, out of conference opponents. Obviously, this was in conference. So, hey, you have that really tough experience when you then get to postseason play. Maybe you didn't win all those games, but your athletes now know what it's like to perform in that environment. I assume that's mostly how you feel.
That's exactly right. We have kind of a joke that we say is like, the beam is 4 inches wide. Everybody knows that. But when there's 10,000 fans and Ashton Kutcher there, the beam feels 3 inches wide, right? Like, so, it everything gets a little small, but being able to deal with that is what we're taking from that meet. And we're going to use that when we go to NCAAs.
Very well. Those are the main important questions I have. I have one other question for you. Obviously, you competed way back in the day at UMass, but probably been a bit. If you had to fill in and step on the mat right now, what event in women's gymnastics do you think you'd be the best at?
Oh my gosh, that's a great question. Great question. I appreciate you saying back in the day. That really kicks it back there for me. But so some of my best events wouldn't translate. I was pretty good at pommel horse. That obviously wouldn't help me in women's gymnastics. High bar, I competed, and floor, but I think probably vault. Vault was one of my best events. I was fortunate enough to make finals in the conference and place on the podium my sophomore year. So I would say vault because it's pretty much identical between men's and women's gymnastics. So if I could help anywhere, I would try to help vault. That being said, I would not be able to walk for a couple days afterwards if I did. So hopefully I don't have to sub in. I'm going to leave it to our team. They're the professionals now. And I'll just, I'll watch and help out in any way I can. But that's a great question. I wasn't expecting that.
Oh, good.
I'll
No,
tell
very
you
well.
what I would never come close to. I'm never getting on that balance beam. So it was not a sport for men. I'm impressed. I've coached in college for 23 years as an assistant head coach, and it still impresses me what they do on balance beam. And every year it gets harder and harder because we're upping the difficulty on beam, and we got a really great beam team this year, and I'm impressed with what they do, but you'll never catch me up there.
Very well. You said 4 inches usually. For you, I'm sure it'd feel like maybe 2 inches up there if you were. You'd
Yeah.
be screwed.
Yeah, I'd be in trouble. And we got, when you watch Maddie and Joe
Yep.
and Emily do it, the beam looks like it's 4 feet wide. Like they're so good up there. They're so confident. I don't even want to think about me up there. It terrifies me just talking about it.
Very well. Well, we'll shift our focus and think about the upcoming regional next weekend. Thank you so much for hopping on, and we really appreciate your time, Coach.
Thank you for having me. I always enjoy my time with you guys on Under the Shell.